Hey, good Monday afternoon. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Quick update on the weather situation today. It's kind of a complicated setup. We've got a lot of heavy rain this morning, which is finally beginning to move out briefly. But what I'm watching to the southwest is this little batch of moisture coming up through northeast Georgia into the upstate of South Carolina. We'll loop this and kind of show you the movement of this little cluster of showers. It's basically paralleling or just to the south and east of I-85. So I expect this to kind of re-intensify, maybe build a little bit more as it moves to the north. Now in the mountains and foothills, mainly drizzle and mist for this afternoon. And as we go into the evening, we start to watch about the potential for severe weather. Right now, that severe weather threat is clearly down to the south. You can see where we've got the tornado watch in Georgia, the Florida Panhandle. This is the area that we're going to watch early this afternoon. The thing that I think is going to be interesting is to see what happens east of this line in North Carolina, and then what happens back to the west. The main low, or the upper part of the low, is back here in the Ohio Valley, and there's potential there that we could see some strong storms develop in that region. I'm going to turn a couple things off here and kind of show you what's going on. This is the slight risk for severe weather in yellow here, all of the eastern North Carolina, most of South Carolina, except for the mountains, foothills, and the upstate, where we've got basically just a general chance of thunderstorms. When you look at the tornado threat, the yellow area, this is a 5% probability. This is 2%. I think the tornado threat in the western Carolinas is pretty minimal. This is really going to be an eastern North Carolina and most of South Carolina threat ahead of that main line. Now, as we look at the hail threat, not much of a hail threat, only about 5%. Damaging wind threat, 15% in the yellow. And right here, this is a 5% probability of damaging wind. Let's look at some data right now as far as the supercell parameter. You can see not a lot going on in the Charlotte area, but there is a little bit enhanced supercell parameter in the eastern part of the state. Significant tornado parameter, really to the south. This is something we'll watch this afternoon if we can get some instability developed. Speaking of instability, this is surface-based CAPE or thunderstorm fuel. You can see it really cranking up down here in the low country of South Carolina, the Savannah, south of the Georgia coast into northern Florida, and a little bit trying to build in eastern North Carolina. So that's something we'll certainly watch. Looking at the amount of shear, there's actually more shear to the northwest where the low is, but we just don't have much in the way of CAPE. This is a storm relative helicity. You can see the area we're most concerned about right now down here in Georgia, but then look at eastern North Carolina. There's a lot of churning of the winds here with height, and if you can get a thunderstorm updraft to develop, you can get rotating thunderstorms. And now remember, not all rotating thunderstorms produce tornadoes. A rotating thunderstorm, by its definition, is a supercell, but you can get some hailers out of this because just the lift that is produced by the spinning can produce some hail and damaging winds. Of course, we always worry about tornadoes with some of these cells. Certainly something we'll watch as we go into the afternoon. Let's look at the HRR model. We'll look at some short-range modeling here. And again, this is reflectivity. You could see how we go into the afternoon. It takes that heavy band to the east, but also redevelops along this line to the west. This is the actual cold front. And if we do see severe weather in the western Carolinas, I think it's going to be because of this. Eastern Carolinas, it's because of what's already out there right now. And that's kind of the big question mark for me as we go into the afternoon, is what develops ahead of the main cold front. You can see we are going to see another surge of moisture here in the Charlotte area this afternoon if that little ball of energy comes up from the south. But here's that line developing along the cold front, and now you're getting into the overnight hours here, basically right before midnight by the time this thing moves through. This is 3Z, so you're talking about 10 o'clock tonight till about midnight that we may see a line of showers and storms develop. Now as we go back, we'll back this up a little bit and look about how much CAPE are we going to get ahead of this line. You can see there's just not a lot building over the Charlotte area. We're kind of wedged in until that little line back to the west develops. And you can see it does bring a little surge of CAPE, but it kind of dwindles later tonight. So the one thing working in our favor in the western Carolinas is the abundant cloud cover and rain that's already in place. So I really think this area probably going to see little, if any, severe weather. It's going to be the eastern part of North Carolina and the eastern part of South Carolina, the low country, Midland South. we'll see the main threat. So we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think the severe threat is going to be huge. It's certainly something we'll watch. I think the flooding is going to be the biggest issue. Anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain has already fallen. If this slug of moisture down here were to move north, then we would have some serious issues. If this starts to move up here, this big ball, and remember, winds will be backing a little bit here, so any south and southeastern facing slope here will have the potential for some flooding. So we'll keep an eye on it throughout the afternoon, but right now, heavy rain is the main threat for us. Severe weather threat, pretty minimal. I'll keep an eye on it, but watch those creeks and streams. It won't take much for the water to come up quickly if another surge of moisture does come up here in the next couple of hours. Of course, I'll be on TV today at 4, 5, and 6 on NBC Charlotte. Of course, you can always get updates at WCNT.com. Grab the Weathercaster app or follow me on Twitter or Facebook. Twitter's the best place. If you're on Facebook, I understand you don't get all my updates. Just FYI, Twitter's the place to go for severe weather. Make sure you get a Twitter account. Even if you never tweet, it's a good place to follow us for updated information.